Back again with another episode of the Between the Hashes podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. As always, getting ready to talk some NFL. Combine week is this week. A lot of rumors are swirling around about trades, re-signings, player stocks going up, player stocks going down. But like I said, as always, joined by Braden Benkin on this episode. Braden, how are we doing on this beautiful February evening?
Yes, it's beautiful February where like a week ago it was 60 degrees and now it's like 20 and
20.
there's snow out
Yeah.
and it's hell.
Yeah.
Doing a lot better than I was last episode. As you guys can probably already tell, I can actually speak now, so that's fun. I have a water and a half, so I'm ready to go.
There we go.
Ready to talk about like the four things that have happened in the last 2 weeks. It's gonna be
Right.
awesome.
Yeah. We decided to take last week off just because, again, there wasn't really much to talk about. I guess at least this week there's the NFL Combine, which mostly all the events and the on-field testing start on Thursday. So we'll get into some of that later this episode. But right now we are going to start off with kind of the stuff that happened last week that brought some news to the NFL. The Miami Dolphins are moving to a new chapter. They are entering rebuild mode, as I think we can all assume. They let go of some key players, and they're rumored to let go of some more players. They obviously last week cut, I think, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubbs, James Daniels, and Nick Westbrook-Akine are the four names they cut. And then obviously now everyone is pointing fingers at Tua as the next guy to potentially be off the team for Miami. Braden, what are your thoughts on these moves by the Dolphins?
Yeah. It's kind of weird, you know. Like it makes sense to kind of move off of these bad contracts. Some of these aren't even like horrible contracts. The Tua one is not great, but that's the one that they've actually held on to. My thing is, if you're gonna hit the self-destruct button, be like, all right, what we have right now has not worked, will not work. Let's move on. Cut these guys. Why do you still have the head? Oh no, you don't have the head coach. You have Jeff
Nope.
Hafley.
Yeah.
Why was I thinking they still have Mike McDaniel? No, he's the
No,
OC of the Chargers.
Well,
Okay, well that
to be fair, like
we're
out
3
of
minutes
all
in.
the head coaching stuff
Oh.
that happened, I mean, this was like you said, me and you did not really care for this hire just because we didn't know a lot about Halfley to begin with, and then none of us really thought McDaniel was actually going to get fired. So, but you continue.
I'm 3 minutes in and I just pulled that goof. All right, comments gonna love that one.
Yeah,
Anyways, well, the last like 30 seconds just erase that from your head. I didn't say that. That was
power of editing, it's gone.
That was computer generated. I don't know what that
Yeah.
was. This is the right decision to move on from an era that simply did not work. You tried to win something, it didn't happen. Move on. Nothing really that they cut was really any sort of long term option, so it makes sense. Tua is kind of like that in the middle. Like he's not the worst quarterback ever, but he's not worth the 55 million a year his contract would be. So it would make sense if they wanted to move on from him, but they're not going to get trade value for him with that contract. But he's too good of a player to simply just cut ties with completely and get nothing back.
Yeah, if the Dolphins end up cutting Tua, that would leave the Dolphins on the hook for $99 million in dead cap. Over the next
Yeah,
two
you can't
seasons.
do that. That's a punt of a season if I've ever heard one.
Yeah,
They do have
and
their pick this year, right?
yeah,
I think
they
so.
pick.
Or like next year.
Yeah, they have all their picks, I believe.
Okay, so if there's a draft you're going to punt for, 2027 is not a bad one, but like there are no quarterbacks there. So if you're going to get rid of Tua, who are you going to replace
Yeah.
him with?
They currently have the 11th pick in the draft, so just outside the top 10. So still a pretty high pick. But now, obviously, they moved on from Tyreek. I thought they cut Bradley Chubb, but I must not have been official as I'm looking on their salary cap page.
It may be a post June 6th cut or whatever.
Potentially. I know there's been talks of them potentially shopping Minka Fitzpatrick. Jalen Waddle has been in rumors as well. It just seems like this era of the Miami Dolphins is officially over. They had a couple decent seasons. Obviously, they had one season where they lost. I think Skylar Thompson started a game in the playoffs against the Bills, and they lost in a shootout to the Bills. And then they had the infamous like negative 30-degree game in Arrowhead where no one on the Dolphins offense could get anything going, and they dropped that one. But that's, I mean, other than them scoring 70 on the Broncos, that first like 3 or 4 games that they had of this iteration, there's not really anything to write home about with this era of the Miami Dolphins. So they decide to pack it up and potentially move on. Do you think that Tua is going to be their starter week 1?
I mean, he's on the roster right now. So if he's on the roster, he will be. I'd give it about a 55% chance he actually is on that roster. So more likely than not, but I would not be surprised in the slightest if he is gone.
See, I'm not super like into the cap stuff, but I wonder if there's like a stretch. You know, like how the NBA, there's like a stretch and wave, kind of like what the Bucks did with Damian Lillard, where they cut him and then they just, the money that they owed him over the next 4 or 5 years, they stretched it out. I wonder if the Dolphins could do something like that with Tua, and it will allow Tua to potentially find a new home. I'm not saying Tua is going to be like an all-pro or anything, but I think he could still be a quarterback, a middle-of-the-road
It's kind of the same situation as when Denver cut Russ, where they're just kind of on the hook for that contract, and now they're paying 50-something million to a quarterback that doesn't play for them.
Right, and Denver struggled, I think, the first season of that contract, and then the second season they ended up, I think, making the playoffs against Buffalo. So, not saying that that'll happen for Miami, but certainly something to watch out for. I'm trying to pull up the exact stuff of his contract. So he's on the hook for, his cap number is $56 million this year, $53 million next year, and $65 million in 2028. And there's 2 extra void years on that contract. So it's just an absolute brutal contract if you're the Dolphins at this point, because now you are in, I would say, full rebuild mode. Wouldn't you say that's kind of the direction they're pointing towards?
At this point, the white flag has been waved.
And even with all these moves, as of right now, they have $3 million in salary cap space. So they can't even be like, hey, we're going to be big spenders in free agency. We're going to retool. They are literally just going to have to suck this year, potentially suck next year before they can actually start competing again, because they're on the hook for $73 million of dead money this season.
Yeah. There's an NBA discourse that this kind of reminds me of a bit with the whole Tua situation. I believe they call it the Paulo Banchero dilemma, where it's like, would you rather draft with the first overall pick a guy that is like borderline all-star, like maybe could be the guy, but you don't really know, but is showing enough flashes to be like, all right, well, we got to at least see what we got? Or would you rather draft, like, I guess in NFL terms, like a Zach Wilson, where he pretty much immediately shows, yeah, no, this guy's a bum. Maybe a bum is a little bit harsh, but like, let's be real. Zach Wilson.
No, but I get what you're saying. Great.
So this is really going to raise a lot of questions. Like, would you rather draft a guy like Tua, where it's like he's going to show flashes, but whether it be his fault or not, just hasn't really been able to put it fully together, or would you rather draft the Zachary Rissache, where it kind of just looks like it's pretty clear from the jump he's just not the guy?
Me personally, I would do the route of the Zach Wilson style, because at least you know early on it's like, this isn't going to work out. Because we've reached kind of an era with quarterbacks, even if you are the 18th best quarterback in the league, if you are a young quarterback, you're going to get $50+ million. Like, that's just what we're at anymore. Right now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players, 11 quarterbacks, I should say, are above that $50 million APY. 11.
Ooh.
And that's not even including Mahomes, who's on the outside of that list. where's some other important names? Sam Darnold, who just won the Super Bowl, is outside of that list. I mean, not even including some of the upper echelon of quarterbacks are in that top 10. Guys that kind of fit that Tua mold are like Trevor Lawrence, where it's like, hey, Trevor's been good, but he's had seasons where he's just been flat out bad. Jordan Love is the biggest roller coaster in the NFL. He either is an all-pro quarterback or he
Categories
just
enthusiastically with what you're saying.
yeah,
Right now.
or he just doesn't. He looks like he should be benched in favor of Malik Willis, like last season, in a couple spots. I would assume that we're gonna reach. We're at the apex of quarterback contracts. I think we're gonna start to see him return to the mean. That makes sense. Where some of these middle of the pack guys aren't getting these huge, enormous contracts right now because it's ridiculous. It puts these teams like Miami in such difficult situations where even if you don't know if that's the guy, you have to pay him. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on Miami this offseason because it sounds like they're going to be letting go of a lot of their star players. And they still have good players on their roster, but I would expect Miami to be in contention for the number one pick this upcoming, or I guess 2027, potentially 2028. But any other thoughts on Miami, Braden?
Not really. The only other thing I maybe had to tag onto this is like this Tua contract is going to be like obviously a lot different circumstances, but this is going to be kind of like the Deshaun Watson situation where it's like you now see this in hindsight, and it's like they gave him that all of the money guaranteed, and now you do not see fully guaranteed contracts anymore. You're going to see situations where it's like these quarterbacks that are like good but not great haven't quite proven that they're the guy, but they look good enough to where they look like they're worth a second shot. You're going to see a lot more teams that are a lot more gun shy to pull the trigger on giving them that top 10, top 15 money.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I said, you're going to see a lot more teams push for that $40 million a year number because that puts you in contention with like Baker Mayfield and his salary. And the Buccaneers, they've been up and down, but they've been good over the last few years. And obviously the example of all, Sam Darnold with his cap number only being at $33.5 million. Granted, Sam was kind of like a question mark when the Seattle signed him to that deal because they didn't know if the Minnesota season was like a one-off. But Sam certainly proved his worth to Seattle and his worth as an NFL quarterback. So we will keep a tab on the Miami Dolphins. I expect them to be one of the more interesting teams this offseason. But staying on the Dolphins-ish news, with some of the cuts, Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb are now free agents. Obviously, with stuff that's being thrown out there, there's been speculation that Tyreek Hill could potentially find himself back in Kansas City or back with another contender. Braden, I want your thoughts. Where do you think Tyreek Hill is going to end up signing?
I mean, if it's not with the Chiefs, it's just going to be probably retirement. I could definitely see that. It seemed like that was kind of a lot of the buzz when he ended up going down with that. I think it was an ACL. But it kind of seems like he's made his money. He's satisfied with his career. I would not be surprised if he just hangs it up. But if he doesn't, it's probably either the Chiefs or I mean, I don't know. It feels like a lot of like the receiver needy teams are just teams that's like you can't see because of the Chiefs ties. You just cannot see Tyreek Hill going there. Like when I think of receiver needy teams, I think of like the Bills and like the Niners. He's not going to either of those teams. It's just not happening. No. Let's be real. So it's probably either the Chiefs or nowhere. That's where it rings for me.
I agree with you, but I will throw out a sleeper team that makes a lot of sense when you think about it on paper. The Chargers make a bit too much sense if Kansas City were to like decide not to sign him, because you're going back with Mike McDaniel, was your head coach at Miami, who's now the OC with the Chargers. You going to play with Justin Herbert, who is one of the strongest arm QBs in the league, where you could zip the ball down the field. You have other receivers around you where it'd make your job a little bit easier. Lad McConkey has been good the last 2 seasons. Quentin Johnston has been the biggest roller coaster wide receiver in the NFL since he entered the league. And what if they decide to keep Keenan Allen? That's even another weapon. But while I do agree, I think it's Kansas City or nothing. If if there was a third door, I think the Chargers make an interesting amount of sense uh, for Tyreek Hill. But it all depends. That injury he dealt with, it was week 5, week 4 he tore. I think it was his ACL, LCL, and MCL. I think it was a clean tear of all the CLs in his knee. And I saw a thing that he needs another surgery in the next few weeks to repair something in his knee. So if you are a team interested in Hill, it's probably not going to be until, I would say, end of September by the time he's ready to go. Because a complete tear like that in the knee certainly is like a year-long recovery. And that'll put him right around the 1-year timetable. So we will see.
Yeah. Especially for a guy like Tyreek Hill, where, I mean, he's not just a speed guy, obviously, but between speed and like his route running, a lot of that is the knees. You need to be able to have like solid foundation with your legs to be able to move around like that. So coming off of a major injury like that, who's to say that he ever is even like 75% of the player Tyreek Hill ever was? Which, granted, 75% of Tyreek Hill is probably still at least
Right.
a wide receiver 2 on the Chargers. But
Yeah.
it kind of raises the question, does Tyreek Hill want to come back if he's only 75% of himself?
Yeah, that's the thing that none of us will have the answer to. And only Tyreek Hill will know that. Uh, but like I was talking to one of my buddies, and if Tyreek Hill signs with someone, it's not going to be, in my opinion, till like July when teams can figure out how healthy that knee actually is. It would be foolish for teams to think that, or for fans to think that teams are going to sign him next month when free agency opens. Because technically, he's been a free agent for the last week and a half, and maybe he wants to drag this out, maybe he doesn't. But I would find it a bit odd if a team commits actual like salary cap space this early on in the offseason when they don't know how that knee is going to heal and how he's going to recover from that injury. Where do you think that Bradley Chubb, he's the other big name that got cut from Miami, where do you think Bradley Chubb could potentially end up?
He's another interesting one where it's like you kind of have a bit of an injury concern with that. It seems like he's never really truly been able to string together a healthy couple seasons. But I mean, I like the Ravens could be really interesting, I think. Just like generally teams that are pretty high up in the championship race most of the time, but they kind of just seem to be an edge rusher away. And maybe not even the Ravens as much anymore. It kind of seems like they have decent options there, but I think Chubb, if he's healthy, could be a big upgrade over that. Um, Depending on if Bosa resigns with the Bills, that could be interesting.
True.
Where else? I mean, the Lions could be fun, maybe.
Would a reunion back in Denver make sense?
That
I
could
know
also
that
be fun.
I know they
kinda
already
also
have.
seem to have their guys.
Yeah, but man, you can never have enough pass rushers. That, in
True.
my opinion, like you would know as a Niners fan, that first iteration of the Niners when they went to the Super Bowl in 2019, they hung their hat on, hey, we have like 6 legitimate pass rushers off the edge, not even including the interior. It's like we have Bosa, we have D4, we have Eric Armstead. We can throw all these guys to potentially get pressure. So maybe Denver makes a little bit of sense. I will say it's the first time in his NFL career since his rookie year that he played all 17 games. He had the third most sacks in his career last season at 8.5. So had a healthy season last year. So if you're a team signing him, that's definitely a plus. But yeah, I wouldn't hang my hat on being that being the biggest free agency signing for his team this offseason. But I like all the teams that you mentioned for sure. Anything else to add on Bradley Chubb's next potential team?
Um, not really.
Okay.
It just kind of seems like a team that is looking for either like a rotational guy or just and they just for sure need help. I mean, even like the Niners probably wouldn't be a horrible option. The problem is, like, you think about the Niners edge rush room, which honestly, I thought when you mentioned being the Niners, I thought you were going to mention how we had like 4 or 5 edge rushers go down this year. So
True.
it's tough to think about the Niners edge rush room because it's like you think about it where it was we were out there running like Yeturgros Matos and like Sam whatever his name was, I don't even know, out there off the edge. But it's like no, we have Nick Bosa, Michael Williams, like other guys that can rush the passer. It's not necessarily a big need right now.
Mm-hmm.
What we need is a training staff that can actually carry their weight in anything.
Right.
But yeah, I would look for any team that is like they're close, but they just need a little bit more help off the edge to be like, hey, here's like 2 years, about I don't know, 15-ish million a year.
Yeah, that's right about the number I thought.
Come help us put some pressure on the quarterback.
The team I think that makes the most sense in my head that you said, Baltimore, makes a lot of sense because that was their weakness this year. They, I think, were dead last or bottom 5 in sacks. So they can add another guy off the. Yeah, if they can add another guy off the edge to potentially get pressure and make it easier for that Ravens defense, I think that's only going to help out more for a team like that. Moving on to franchise tag season, the franchise tag deadline. I'm trying to pull it up so I don't mistake myself. The deadline is March 3rd. March 3rd is the deadline. The franchise tag window opened up a week from last week, I should say, on the 17th, and it'll go till March 3rd. As of right now, only one player has been franchise tag officially, and that's Kyle Pitts, the Atlanta Falcons. But there are rumors of a couple other players getting franchise tag. Those include George Pickens, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, Breece Hall, running back for the New York Jets, and potentially Daniel Jones, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. Braden, what are your thoughts on, outside of the Pitts, because he's already been franchise tagged, but what are your thoughts on potentially Pickens, Breece Hall, and Danny Dimes getting franchise tagged?
When was the last time we seen like a player be actively like imprisoned on a roster like we've seen Breece Hall be imprisoned by the New York Jets? It feels like the last like 2 years Breece Hall's been like, look, it's been real, it's been fun, but it has not been real fun. I want out. Please, please. I will go punt for a team if it means I am not playing for the Jets. They don't care. They will not move on from Breece Hall. It is actually comedy. The lengths of which the Jets are going to not trade away Breece Hall, to not let him hit free agency, to not let him enjoy his life at all. He's like literally like begging, pleading and begging on his hands and knees to be released from the shackles of East Rutherford, New Jersey, and they won't do it. It's frustrating, man, because like from a purely unbiased standpoint, Breece Hall is like really, really talented, and he's being wasted by the most incompetent organization in the history of sports. It's like, what are we even doing there? Please, please, whoever is listening from the Jets, hear my cry. Let my man go. Please. It was a good run, but it has come to pass. He is needed in Kansas City or somewhere else. Let him go. As far for anybody else, I like Pickens getting franchise tagged. I think they really need him in Dallas. He was a really good pairing with CeeDee Lamb. They also re-signed Javonte Williams, which I think is a good re-signing. He really like revitalized his entire career last year. That was really good to see now that he's finally healthy. And Daniel Jones is going to be a really interesting one to see what happens there. Because he could get franchise tag, but if he doesn't, with what teams saw out of Sam Darnold this year, Daniel Jones could get like a lot of money if he hits the open market. And that will be incredibly fun to watch.
Braden, you just made my job easy. I just I now can use that Brees Hall clip and make that a short or make that a reel,
Yeah,
and
there you
that's good. That's gonna get that's gonna get a lot of interactions. So I appreciate that.
There you go,
Oh
buddy.
my god, that was you just made my job really
You
easy
don't you
there.
don't need to brainstorm for this one. I
No,
got you.
all right. Um, I'll start with the Brees Hall stuff. I agree. He has made it clear he wants to be off the New York Jets, and right now, if they were to franchise tag him, he would be get paid $14 million a year at the running back position, which I think would be like close to the highest paid running back, or
It's like
maybe
at
top
least top
three.
five. I
Uh,
think that's more than Saquon, isn't it? Because he's making like what, 12?
let me pull that up actually.
I know it.
That
If it
would
is
put
above
him
that number, it's not by much.
fourth. So Saquon's the highest running back at 20.6 APY. Then it's
Jesus, what am I talking about?
McCaffrey is 19 million a year. Derrick Henry's 15. He would be just above Jonathan Taylor if he were to sign that franchise tag. But it sounds like for Brees specifically compared to the other guys, sounds like Brees is going to get the transitional tag, which is a little bit different than the franchise tag per se, because transitional tag you could talk to other teams, and if teams want to sign you, they have to give over what, 2 first round picks or a first and a second. It's something like
Oh my
absurd.
gosh. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. If the team that like transitional tag you doesn't match the offer, which is a weird. I have my whole opinion on the franchise tag and how it's kind of dumb, and how in every other sport this isn't a thing, but in the NFL it's like, hey, you cannot go into free agency. You can't. Sorry, maybe next year, and then a player next year. Oh, you can't go into free agency, and teams can just do this over and over and over without having to commit. I think it's kind of silly. But for Brees, like you said, it's just sad because this man has been wanting to leave the Jets for the last 2 years, and it sounds like he was almost dealt at the deadline too. And for him to be going from that, it's like, oh my god, I'm going to be off the Jets finally, to oh my god, I'm going to be playing for the New York Jets in 2026. It is just actually absurd, and it's really funny. But even with all the stuff he dealt with last year, being on the Jets, I think he was injured a couple games. He still was fourth in the NFL in rushing yards last year. Like, he was still a very, very good running back. Um, and was easily the most consistent part of the Jets offense last year because Garrett Wilson wasn't really a factor in the second half of the year due to injuries. But I'm very curious to see if Brees ends up getting tagged, if it's the transitional tag or if it's the regular franchise tag. But for the Jets, dude, just take the L on this one. Just let the man sign where he wants to. I'm not even saying it has to be Kansas City. Just let him sign somewhere. You're putting him in NFL hell right now, and that's cruel and unusual punishment. Let the man free.
free my man's. He ain't did
Honestly, dude.
nothing.
He, yeah,
All he did was have the fourth most rushing yards in the NFL.
yeah,
Free my man's.
yeah. For George Pickens, this is the interesting one because the Cowboys have already paid CeeDee Lamb a bunch of money. They've already paid Dak Prescott a bunch of money. Are they willing to commit probably $35 million a year to Pickens? I don't really know. It sounds like they want him back with the Cowboys. Right now, that franchise tag number is at $28 million, so not quite to that $35 million a year, but I'm sure Pickens and his agent are really fighting for 30 plus million. If you're the Cowboys, though, do you give him that huge contract that he played his way into last year? He had an unbelievable season last year, 93 catches, over 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, like a truly unbelievable season. Talk about a guy that balled out in the last year of his rookie deal, and now he's going to get paid. But, Braden, if you were the Cowboys, are you committing to George Pickens long term?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two ways you can look at this. You can look at it way one, where it's like, look, he had an insane year last year. At times, he looked like he was better than CeeDee Lamb. Like, he looked like the wide receiver one of the Dallas Cowboys last year. It makes sense to want to keep him on the roster long term. Option number two, though, is you're kind of starting to turn into the Cincinnati Bengals, where it's like you have so much money tied to your quarterback and two receivers, and that's it. they're going to tie themselves in a situation where they have like no more money to be able to build out the rest of the roster. Their defense is already starting to kind of crumble a bit after trading away Micah Parsons. I mean, they did have a pretty good run defense last year, but a pretty good run defense is not going to do you much when you are in the same division as the Eagles. And even like the Giants look like they're starting to build up something over there. So I it's tough, but I feel like there are other places you need to spend your money right now than spending 28 to 30 million dollars on a wide receiver too.
Plus, if you think about the draft haul that they could get for Pickens right now,
Like
like,
like a tag and trade sort of thing.
yeah, I mean, when I think of a trade for Pickens, I'm almost thinking that along the same lines of when Tyreek got traded from Kansas City to Miami, and it's like a first, a second, a fourth. I don't think Pickens is to the level of Tyreek, but there's no, you couldn't. I think Pickens is easily worth a first round pick and another mid round draft pick, or potentially a second or a third round draft pick. Like, I think he was that impactful for the Cowboys last year. Granted, Pickens has his highs are like he's a top 3 receiver in the NFL. His lows, dude's like not borderline unplayable, but like it's just very head scratching some of the stuff he does on the field.
Yeah, it's tough because like yeah, George Pickens is really talented, but we saw prime Stephon Diggs get traded for what, a first round pick,
Yeah.
like a first and a first and a fourth, or was it just a first?
Are you talking when he got traded from Minnesota to Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a first.
So, do we think that George Pickens' value is higher than prime Stephon Diggs? Because I don't think it is. That is a high bar to beat. I feel
Right.
like we forget how good Minnesota Stephon Diggs was.
Yeah.
Like that was a really good talent. That fresh off the Minneapolis Miracle, like that was a very good wide receiver, and they are honestly lucky that they got insanely lucky they got Justin Jefferson out of that somehow. But anyways, back to my main point. It's tough to see George Pickens getting a better return than Minnesota got for Stephon Diggs. Although I can't really remember truly because it was kind of a while ago. I can't remember, like, did Stephon Diggs like request out of Minnesota or something? That feels like maybe
I'm
something
not
that happened.
I'm not
That
100%
that
sure.
sounds like something that could happen, knowing kind of what we know now about Stephon Diggs. But I don't really know for sure. We also know that kind of same thing about George Pickens. So,
Right.
and he
So
also was just traded for a fourth round pick last year. So
right. So the year before he got traded to Buffalo, I'm talking about Stephon Diggs. He had 63 catches, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. So Pickens had an even better season than what Diggs had. I Granted, Diggs when he got to Buffalo had one of the better receiving seasons of the 2020s of 127 receptions, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. Like truly balled out for the Bills, and was kind of the reason the Bills offense and Josh Allen were able to finally get over the hump and get it to the AFC title game that year. But I'm not saying if you were to tell me to pick a percentage of Pickens stays in the Cowboys, like either if he signs a long-term deal or just signs the franchise tag or whatever, versus gets traded, I think it's like 80-20. But man, you look at some of these teams that are picking in the first round, like towards the end of the first round too, like honestly, your San Francisco 49ers make a lot of sense if they wanted to like swing for the fences and get an alpha number 1 wide receiver. Not saying that's where he's going to go. Buffalo makes a lot of sense because they don't have any receivers literally ever. You get 2 Khalil Shakir games a year, and it's like, oh, he's really good, and then falls off the face of the earth. So you could potentially have 3 first rounders in this draft, which would be kind of nuts. But I still think that Pickens is going to end up signing a long-term deal with the Cowboys. Whether I agree with it or not, I think that's how we're going to finish the offseason with the Cowboys.
yeah, my another thing I kind of want to add to the whole getting traded thing. I feel like teams are not going to forget how it ended with the Steelers, where it's like he was basically diva his way out of Pittsburgh. A year of good production, yeah, that helps, but that doesn't completely wipe away that bad reputation that Pickens has. Especially
Right.
he didn't exactly do a ton to prove that otherwise this year, other than have a great season. His value definitely has increased, obviously, but yeah, I feel like at first is a little bit too rich if they were to trade him. I think they could get multiple day two picks for sure, but at first just seems like a little much.
Yeah, and the one thing that I kind of forget to account for is whoever trades for him is going to have to hand him a massive contract. Like
That too.
the contracts can be worth over 100 million, probably over 120 million if I had to take a guess, whether that's a 4 or 5 year deal. So commanding that much money and giving up draft picks, I could see your reasoning why it could be just a couple day two picks, but there are some receiver needy teams out there that could potentially swing for the fences and get Pickens. But to sum up all my thoughts, I don't think he's going to get traded. I think the Cowboys are going to follow kind of like what you said, the Cincinnati Bengals path line, where it's just like, hey, we're just going to load up on offense and pray that our defense can get us one stop out of 10 and just see if we can outscore teams. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on the Pickens thing. The Daniel Jones one is interesting, like you said, because there are some teams that like could use good quarterback play. Like the team that comes to mind for me, now this is if they move off their current guy, which they're already paying him a lot of money, but like Arizona, like if they were able to like, let's say Indianapolis just says, hey, we're not going to franchise tag him. Like the injury we think is too severe. Arizona could swoop in and probably pay. I don't even know what Daniel Jones got paid this past season. I'm going to back check myself before I spit out a wrong number. But there's no reason why the Cardinals or a team like the Jets, which would be kind of funny, going back to New York, couldn't pay him $20 to $30 million a year. He actually only got paid $14 million last year for the Colts. Like, there's no reason he couldn't get double that on the open market. Granted, he's got a torn Achilles right now, which kind of throws a wrench in a lot of plans. It's because he probably won't be able to play until about week 8, week 9. And that's if you're coming back quick from that injury. Because he suffered that, like, late in the season, right? I'm not mistaking that, correct?
Yeah, it was probably about like week 10 or 11, maybe.
It was right as they started to lose a couple games after they started, like, 8-1. And so he's not coming back till, like, the middle to the end of the season in 2026. But for a team like Arizona, you're not going to be good next year. Sorry, Brock. You're just the Cardinals are not going to be
I think
anywhere.
we concur.
Yeah, or a team. I don't want to say the Jets just because the Jets will find a way to ruin it. But like, if Miami had cap space, that would be fun because they have Jalen Waddle, but they're so tied up in their dead money that that one just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I'm super curious, like you said. A, does he get a long-term deal with the Colts? B, do the Colts franchise tag him? C, if they don't do either of the first two, what teams are willing to take a chance? And like you said, potentially do that Sam Darnold type deal where it's 3 years for $100 million and try their luck with Daniel Jones.
The thing is with franchise tagging Daniel Jones is like he's not going to play next year anyways.
Right.
Like, he's going to spend so much time trying to recover from that torn Achilles. Like he's not going to play anyways. So why would you bother paying him for a year to not have him play?
I guess
At that point, you might as well just ink up a long-term contract with him.
I guess if you're the Colts though, the 5% that it makes sense is that like you're not super committed to Daniel Jones and you want to see how this plays out. And you would rather pay him $47 million this year, and let's say they're wrong and he's just not good, and then they can let him go in the free agency next year. Versus, kind of like what the Giants did. The Giants paid him $160 million after that one playoff run with Minneapolis or against Minnesota, where the Giants immediately cut him 2 years later. Like I think that's the approach the Colts are taking. But I agree with you. If you already we saw him play well in the first half of the season last year, and he was playing well before he tore his Achilles. Why wouldn't you just commit long term? But I get the logic of the potential franchise tag. And plus, you don't want teams like I said, like Arizona or maybe a couple other teams to potentially steal your franchise quarterback, because if he's not back with the Colts, you can't trot out Anthony Richardson again. That experiment is just not working. Like that, you can't do that if you're the Colts. So I get the logic of it if they potentially franchise tag him.
I think if the plan is like you said, where it's like they just want to pay him for a year, I feel like if they're gonna do that, maybe like a 2 year 70, maybe pay him for next year to get like recover, and then whatever of it you can play, whatever, cool. But next year kind of just doesn't count for Daniel Jones.
Right.
That doesn't count towards his like eval. But after next year, that's you're like, all right, this is the year. Have you fully recovered from that Achilles? Are you like what we saw in 2025, or are you what we saw in 2023, 2024? So I think if the Colts are if looking to do that, I could definitely see more of a 2 year contract. But now that you say that, I really do like that idea for Arizona, where it's like, all right, just suck next year, go get some talent around Daniel Jones, and then in 2027, be like, hey, trot out Daniel Jones as your quarterback, have talent around him, which is what we saw in Indianapolis, and that clearly worked very well, and kind of just see what happens. Because, like you said, they're going to be bad anyways. So might as well kind of just take a flyer year, go get another top 5 pick, have another top 5 talent for Daniel Jones to play with, whether that be a target on offense or something to help the defense out, and just see what happens. I really do like that fit now that you mention it. And it would probably mean Kyler Murray kind of just has to be gone.
Yeah.
If he isn't already booking a flight to East Rutherford to go be the Jets quarterback, I really don't even know. Like, who's to say what's going on in Arizona right now? That's a mess in its own right.
Jones last year had easily, I would say, second best season of his career. 19 passing touchdowns, 3,100 yards, 68% completion percentage. That's the highest completion percentage of his career, and the second highest yardage total of his career, and second highest passing touchdown total, I should say, of his career. So he played well.
That's in like 2/3 of the season as well.
Yeah,
like
it's in 13 games.
To a full season, that's probably pretty clearly his best career.
Yeah. Yeah, he only started 13 games last year and obviously got hurt in the middle of the last one. So wasn't really able to bolster those stats anymore. But even if you're Arizona, and let's say I know we talk about Arizona with this move, but there other teams could potentially do this too. You sign him for like 1 or 2 years of like, maybe the APY is like more than you want to give up. Maybe it's $40 million a year. There's no reason you couldn't just flip him next year. Like, have him try out like let's say he comes back in week 12. Have him play the last 5 weeks of the year. If he plays good, you can trade him while his value's high. If not, you only have 1 more year of that contract, and then potentially he's starting for whoever the next quarterback in line is. Because if you're only paying Daniel Jones that, I would assume you're looking at quarterback in the draft. But that one, I didn't realize it when I put this in our notes, but that's the most interesting one if the Colts end up pulling the trigger on that. But we will see. That's pretty much it for franchise tag. I don't think any other teams are going to franchise tag players. I think it's the first time in a long time that there's only been like 2 or 3 players that are potentially tagged. So we will see on that. Moving into our next talking point. This is the week of the NFL Combine. This is where players' draft stocks can skyrocket with good on-field testing, or it can absolutely plummet. Braden famously last year before the Combine was a big Armand Membu guy, and Membu had an unbelievable Combine. His stock rose so much that he got picked, number 7 to the New York Jets, where before the Combine he was a borderline top 20 pick. So super interesting to see. Braden, this I'm putting you on the spot, and I apologize for it, but who do you think is going to bolster their draft stock the most this week at the combine?
I'm trying to think of some names. The first name that comes to mind is Monroe Freeling, tackle from Georgia. He's like 6'7", about 315. Like, not a lot of tape on him right now, but I think he is going to do very well at the combine. Really agile guy. Kind of in the same mold as Membu, but actually like not the height concerns. I could see him shooting up draft boards a lot after this combine. Outside of offensive linemen, I really don't know. I haven't done a lot of research like for your like late day 2, day 3 guys to really give you like for sure.
Right.
I feel like there's a linebacker I'm thinking of. I think a linebacker from what, Cincinnati? I think it is. Let me see if I can figure out his name. Hold on. I'm trying to. Gosh. I don't know.
I'll see if I can pull it up.
I'm sure you could figure it out if you looked it up.
Yeah.
This is
But
gonna
you
piss me
think
off if I don't figure it
you
out.
think wow, I forget. Freeling, you think he's going to be the guy that his stock rises up the most this week?
Yeah, as far as like guys that are currently projected to be round 1, I
Yeah.
could see that.
Yeah, especially for the offensive linemen, if these teams see them like run well, like
Jake Galladay or Jake Golday, whatever his name
yeah,
is, that I think he also has potential to do pretty well.
yeah. We will keep that in note. Like I said, you were early on Armand Membu last year, so that's why I wanted to see if you had anyone up your sleeve this year that you think could potentially go up draft boards a lot this week. But yep, the combine, like it's been going on since I think Monday, so yesterday as we're recording. But the events, the on-field testing officially starts Thursday. Thursday is where the defensive linemen and the linebackers test. Friday is defensive backs and tight ends. Saturday is quarterbacks, receivers, and running backs. Sunday is the offensive linemen and the specialists, so like kickers and punters and stuff like that. So I know if you're a real nerd, you'll watch the combine, but Saturday is easily the most intriguing day because that's where you can see players potentially break like the 40-yard dash record, and you get to see all the running backs and the wide receivers show out on the field, the 3-cone shuttle, all that fun stuff for the combine. Also with the combine, a lot of GMs are talking with one another about potential trades and just how certain players potentially could be dealt. I know one of the rumors that I saw was from Howie Roseman. He's not being 100% committed on A.J. Brown this upcoming season because he had kind of a roller coaster year with the Eagles. Braden, do you think that A.J. Brown is going to be on the Philadelphia Eagles in September?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of talk right now because especially like the way that the season really like started and ended really with AJ Brown just not getting targets. There's going to be a lot of talk about that, but I think a lot of the problem with that was the play calling, and that guy is gone. So
Yeah.
I think there's going to be smoke about it, but no, I think at the end of the day, AJ Brown will remain with the Eagles, and he's going to be what he always is.
I kind of think so too. I know there's some smoke about him going to potentially New England and reuniting with Mike Vrabel, but I don't really see it. I think the Eagles are going to be asking too much for a guy like that because AJ Brown's still like an all-pro caliber wide receiver. Like we've seen it. It's not just the highs are really good, but the lows are kind of head scratching with AJ Brown. Kind of like what I said with Pickens, but not quite to the extent of Pickens. But I think he's going to be with the Eagles as much as I hate to say it. But that's really all the combine talk we have. I mean, maybe next week if some crazy records are broken, if someone breaks the 40-yard dash record or someone breaks the bench press record or something like that, we'll give our thoughts to it. But not really a whole lot to talk about with that. Moving into our next talking point. This is just kind of a quick, light talking point that we wanted to bring up. I wish Brock was on this episode because he would be able to give his thoughts a lot about this. But the UFL is making some rule changes that are kind of cool, kind of not cool. I don't really know how to react to them. I'm pulling up the official rule changes that they have enacted for this upcoming season. So they now have a 4-point field goal. So any field goal made past 60 yards is worth 4 points. There is no punting inside of the 50-yard line. So if you're on the opponent's side of the field, you cannot punt until the final 2 minutes of the half. There is no tush push in the UFL. And the other main one that I would say is they've reversed back to the college rules where you only need 1 foot in bounds for it to be a completed catch. Braden, out of those 4 rules that I just mentioned, which one do you like the most, and which one do you think could translate to the NFL and would be kind of cool?
Which one do I like the most? I mean, no tush push. I mean, there's people are gonna be like, "Oh man, NFL needs that. It's so busted, whatever." Which I do agree, especially with how it has been officiated this past couple years. I mean, I'm give or take on it. The one that I'm really excited to see is the no punting whenever you are in your own territory, which I'm sure as an Iowa fan that is devastating for you to see.
No, but it's on your opponent's territory. So if you cross midfield, you can't punt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I meant. I never know what side that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
There's one play that I saw circulating when that got announced. Do you remember 2017, Louisiana Tech versus Mississippi State? The snap went over the quarterback's head. The ball went 87 yards backwards.
Yes.
And it was like a 3rd and goal on their own 5.
Yes. I'm familiar with that play.
Due to the rules, because if you cross the 50 and then a penalty or a loss of yards sends you back across the 50, the rule still applies. You still cannot punt. So in that scenario where the Louisiana Tech had a 3rd and 95, they would not have been allowed to punt.
That's insane. I never even thought about something like that happening. That's wild.
So if that happens, you
I want to see if I can pull up that clip.
I will be bringing my popcorn.
I'm gonna see if I can pull up that clip so our visual.
You can just look up Louisiana Tech, Mississippi State football on YouTube. It's the first thing that comes up. I did it today because I thought about that play. I was like, wait, is that the one that happened? Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find a short version of it. Maybe not. Yeah, that's something I didn't even think about. That would be super funny to see a team go from 2nd and goal on their own on the 4 to 3rd and goal on their own 5-yard line. I don't know if I like that for the NFL, but I'm curious to see how that's going to play out for the UFL.
It's really funny though.
It is really funny. There is one rule that I forgot to mention that's also kind of noteworthy. They changed how overtime works in the UFL, where instead of I'm trying to remember what their overtime was before. I don't know if it was college overtime or what. But overtime is now just a shootout from the 3-yard line, or from the 5-yard line, excuse me, where each teams get 3 attempts. So I think I don't know if it's like alternate, like one team goes, the other team goes, or if it's the first team goes 3 times, the second team goes 3 times. I would assume it's alternate, but these rules just came out, I think, the other day, so I'm not 100% sure. And obviously when the season starts, we'll really figure out how those rules are played out. But that's the other one where it's kind of cool. I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. The field goal one, though, I mean, that just brings... That one I don't know if I like, but that would be kind of cool. Oh, man, maybe I'm just totally lying.
This is the Cam Little rule. That's what that is.
I thought I remember John Harbaugh trying to enact a rule where on the kickoff, if you're kicking off to a team, if you kick it through the upright, it should be a point. This happened
I stand on that. I think that is I like that.
You think okay? I didn't know how you would react to that.
I honestly I've thought about that since I was like since I first was getting into football was like, listen, if I have a kicker that has a strong enough kick to boot that sucker 80 yards through the uprights, that should be my points.
Yeah, especially with how the kickoff is now. Like, you either can just take the safe route and punt it in the landing zone or kick it in the landing zone where the returner has to take it out. Or you can try to kick it through the uprights. If you make it, you get a point. But if you don't, maybe it goes to like the 35 or the 40. Because there's got to be a risk reward to it. You can't just have kickers doing that the entire game. Like, there's got to be some level of strategy to it where it's like, hey, we're down by 9 points right now. And we're kicking off. We just scored. We're going to try to kick it to the uprights to get it to a one possession game. And if we don't, the other team has the ball on the 40 and we're still down 2 possessions. If we make it, though, and we get a stop, we're only down 8 points. It could potentially get a touchdown. Just a scenario like that, it could be really cool. But there's got to be a risk reward. But I don't know why that's something I remembered. I think it was Harbaugh that really, because Tucker's been the kicker for the Ravens for the longest time. And Tucker's got one of the strongest legs in the NFL. I think that's why I could first remembered it. But no, some of these rules are really cool. Looking forward to it, but I don't really know if any of these translate to the NFL, other than the tush push one. But I think the tush push is getting banned this offseason. I'm trying to think if there's any other rules. I guess defensive pass interference is like, it's turning into college rules now, where it's not a spot foul, it's 15 yards, which in the NFL is huge sometimes because that's why you take those shots down the field and potentially get 40 yards on a play. Whereas college, it doesn't matter. Like, you're almost incentivized if you're beat on a route to just hold the crap out of your receiver, so you can't get that long play. But do you have any other thoughts on the UFL rule changes and then potentially going over to the NFL?
Not really. I mean, I feel does no disrespect, but does the UFL even have good enough kickers with enough kick power to boot that sucker 60 yards on a regular basis for that to really even be?
I mean,
like Rodrigo Blankenship, I guess, but even
Jake
doesn't
Bates
have the craziest leg.
Jake Bates came from the UFL, and now he's
true.
He's a reliable kicker for the Lions. I'm not saying that all kickers
he's
are
not drilling from 60.
No, but I don't know. The 60-yard one could be cool, but that just, I don't see that one ever making it way over to the NFL. For me, it's kind of like the NBA adding a 4-point shot. I can never think of that being a legit thing that's actually going to happen because it feels like carnival-y. Yeah, it feels it feels like an all-star game if you're going to have that. Where you're just going to have players shooting from 4-point shots all the time.
Adam Silver has had worse ideas than adding a 4-point line. That's all I'm going to say on that front.
Right. No, the NBA's got its own issues with tanking and all that stuff. I'm sure we'll have an NBA episode out within the next week or two reacting to that and the All-Star game that may have saved the NBA All-Star game, I should say. But we'll have something out in the next week or two about that. That will do it for the UFL stuff. Kind of to close out this episode like we always do in the off season, we are doing mock drafts. Me and Braden compile a list of, wow, I can't get this set right. Me and Braden get our mock drafts. We do this every week, try to inform the viewers. We didn't do one last week, I should say, just because we all took the week off. I think everyone on the 515 network took the week off just to kind of take a break. It's been a long NFL season, so we figured not much to talk about. Might as well take a break now. But we are into mock draft 2.0. Braden, I'll let you have the floor for mock draft 2.0.
Yeah. So, like I said in 1.0, Fernando Mendoza just will be the first overall pick. There is nothing that will change this, at all. And we don't really even need to talk more about it. If you don't know about Fernando Mendoza at this point, how did you even get here? That's kind of where I stand on that. Arvel Reese at number 2. I did actually remember to put him at the right spot this time, so that's fun. The Jets kind of just need help everywhere. And Arvell Reese kind of just is the next best player available. The only thing that could really drag him down is teams not really knowing whether he's more of a on like a he doesn't have much experience off the edge, and he wasn't like the greatest off ball. So it'll be interesting to see how he ends up translating to the NFL game. But I think he's a heck of a talent. He will make it work pretty much no matter where he plays. At number 3, sticking with what I had at 1.0, it is Francis Mauigoa to the Cardinals. They just need something on the line to help them at all right now. Whether he ends up playing tackle or guard at the next level, he will end up being a beast there either way. Number 4, I have David Bailey going to the Tennessee Titans. It kind of sounds like there may be smoke that this is supposed to be Ruben Bain. I have it being David Bailey here. There's been a lot of smoke about Bailey going up a lot higher than I originally thought he would. I don't necessarily love him as a prospect. I think he's not really like a 3-down guy. I see him more as like a dedicated pass rusher. He did get a lot better in the run game this year, but still, like, what is he, like 6'3", 250? So not super undersized, but not exactly like the best in run defense. Even against like Big 12 tackles, which Utah has those 2 really good ones, but no disrespect to the Big 12, obviously, big fan, but not exactly the highest end talent when compared to the NFL. So we'll see how that ends up translating. And number 5, I have Caleb Downs going to the Giants. Tyler Nubin is not that great, and Caleb Downs just is somebody that could end up falling at the actual NFL draft, but he just is like a super instinctual, just really good leader on defense. The only problem is he plays safety, which has been proven time and time again to be supremely undervalued at the NFL level, especially like a box safety who's not the most versatile guy. But I think Downs has the talent to really, like, if there's going to be a box safety get drafted in the top 5 post Jamal Adams, it is going to be Caleb Downs at this point. That's kind of just where that is. At number 6, I have Cardinal Tate out of Ohio State, staying in the state of Ohio, which is fun. But the Browns just need something at receiver. Cardinal Tate, I think, is pretty easily my wide receiver 1 right now. You can make the argument between Mekhi Lemon and Jordan Tyson as well. Tyson's kind of iffy because of the injury concern. Will he even be like a top 20 pick? The talent is there, but if the medicals don't come back clean, it is going to be rough to see where he ends up actually landing. And Mekhi Lemon is just not like the prototypical receiver size, which we've seen recently not matter as much, but there are teams that are going to probably think about it. And I wouldn't be surprised that the Browns see Cardinal Tate at 6'3", Mekhi Lemon at 5'11", and be like, all right, let's take the 6'3" guy from Ohio State, which receiver from Ohio State. I know never scout the helmet, scout the player, but come on, you can do it a little bit. At number 7, I have Ruben Bain going to the Commanders. Been a bit of a problem about his arm length recently, but I mean, whether he ends up playing off the edge or moving inside, I think he's going to be a really good player at the next level. A lot of his game is kind of just based on his power, which obviously going against better talent, you kind of question whether that will translate, but I think he will be okay. And Dan Quinn really, really likes these bigger defensive linemen, I think. So I think he will fit in pretty well there. At number 8, I do have Mekhi Lemon going to the Saints. Just trying to help out that offense as much as you can with Tyler Shuck kind of proven to be. Tyler Shuck is your guy, so as much help as you can give him, I think the better. They moved away from Rashid Shaheed at the trade deadline. You can never trust Chris Olave to be healthy for more than 5 minutes without getting a concussion. And I really don't even know what else could possibly be going on in that receiver room. Mekhi Lemon automatically walks in and is at least the wide receiver 2. And once Chris Olave takes his first snap in training camp, will probably, unfortunately, be the wide receiver 1. Number 9, I told you, Chiefs fans, you're probably going to get tired of this, but if you know the player, you probably won't. It's Jeremiah Love to the Chiefs. Will the Chiefs end up probably just going with a guy in free agency? Probably. But if they don't, I think Jeremiah Love is just leaps and bounds better than the next best running back in this class. So I think it makes sense that we've seen running back get valued a lot less in the NFL as of lately, although Ashton Genty did end up going in the with the 6th overall pick last year. So maybe bucking that trend a little bit with the run game starting to be a lot more valuable. It seems like with defenses moving to more like deep, trying to protect against the deep ball. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up getting drafted, but I think he is, like, regardless of position, at least a top 3 talent in this class. It just is the problem with a lot of the other guys, in that, especially for the top 3 guys that I mentioned, like Arvell Reese, linebacker, Caleb Downs, safety, Jeremiah Love, running back. These are positions that get undervalued a lot in the NFL draft, but whoever ends up taking that chance is going to get a heck of a guy with Jeremiah Love. And number 10, I kind of just went with who I think is the best defensive player available, and that is Peter Woods out of Clemson. Not exactly the best year last year, but, I mean, his tape before this year was really good, and the Bengals just need something on that defensive line. Trey Hendrickson seems like a foregone conclusion he's never going to play for the Bengals again. They kind of just need something on the D-line, something on defense in general. Peter Woods is at least an attempt at that. Again, I would not be surprised if the Bengals bangle it again and end up going with like a Kendrick Falk or something just completely irrelevant to the defense. I don't mean that as shade at Kendrick Falk, by the way. That's just not really... I'm not super high on Kendrick Falk. Just not really like a... He kind of is a reverse David Bailey in a way, where he's like a super big guy, really good at stopping the run, just not a pass rusher at all. And that kind of just seems like the build of edge rusher that the Bengals kind of just like drafting. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But right now I have Peter Woods. I think that's probably the pick that I'm the least confident in. But that's kind of just how the board fell, unfortunately, for him.
Great mock draft 2.0 by Braden. Spoiler alert, me and him are going to have similar mock drafts just for the next few weeks, just because there's not really much known right now. I have a couple differences in mind, but we have a few of the same players. Obviously, I'm not going to touch on Mendoza. I mean, I think he's like minus 20,000 or 30,000 on DraftKings right now to be the number 1 pick. This guy is being the number 1 pick. The Raiders are not trading this pick either. This is going to be the guy that the Raiders take at number 1. Like Braden mentioned, though, there is smoke of David Bailey getting drafted super high, higher than most would expect. I have him going number 2 to the Jets. This might be the Bill Simmons woe of the draft, but honestly, with some of the edge rushers in this draft, they all have some weakness to an extent. Bailey's kind of undersized. Arvell Reese, you don't really know where to play him. Ruben Bain, he's got the T-Rex arms. Like, you just don't really know with some of these guys. Bailey might have the highest upside, but Bailey might also have the lowest floor out of all these guys, just because not really refined as a pass rusher, not really big enough to stop the run. But I think the Jets are willing to take that chance and bolster up that defense. At number 3, me and Braden have both taken Francis. How did you say his last name? I don't want to butcher it again, but I would say Moyaga.
Noah. I think the UI, it's somewhere an N comes in with these like Samoan names. Okay. I don't know. I've heard it pronounced Maui Noah. That's how I've said it. I don't know if that's right or not. I'm sure I'm wrong, but that's my best guess. Okay,
so I have Francis Maui Noah going to the Cardinals. I think I've been saying Moyaga the last few weeks, and I apologize. But Francis Maui Noah going to the Cardinals. The Cardinals need to protect whoever their quarterback is going to be. While I don't think it's going to be Kyler this fall, they have to protect whoever they bring in the free agency or the draft. And Francis Maui Noga is probably the best offensive lineman in this draft. I have Arvell Reese going to the Titans. Robert Saleh gets that kind of tweener. I mean, he's not really... He could be an off-ball, kind of be on the line. Like, just don't really know where to play him. But Robert Saleh has had success when he takes Ohio State edge rushers, i.e. Nick Bosa. Granted, Nick Bosa was a one-of-a-kind player coming out. But I think Tennessee likes that Ohio State fit. So I think Arvell Reese is a pretty good fit with the Titans. The Titans just need players on defense. They had one of the worst defenses in the NFL last year. Me and Braden also have Caleb Downs going number 5 to the Giants. This is going to be the Giants' Kyle Hamilton, like what Harbaugh had in Baltimore. I think Downs is the best player in the draft. I think he's better than Mendoza. It's just the positional value is not there. I think this would be the highest a safety's been drafted, like Braden mentioned, since Jamal Adams. And Adams went number 7, but that was 9 years ago, which is crazy to believe. But Downs could potentially be the best guy 10 years from now, but the fact that he's a safety is really going to hinder his value of how high he could actually go. But it makes a lot of sense with the Giants. Harbaugh having Kyle Hamilton before, they like to have that safety. And the Giants defense is, while they lack some at the linebacker position, their like defensive line is really solid. You have Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. Like you have like good players on the defensive line. So if you can just get some help in the secondary, it can really help out that a lot for the Giants. Different pick than Braden. I have Spencer Fanoa, the offensive tackle from Utah, going to the Browns. I've had receiver mocked to the Browns the last few weeks, but then I saw a thing that the entire starting offensive line for the Browns is free agents. They will not be with the team next year. So,
to be honest, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think all 5 starters, like including like Wyatt Teller, Joel Petonio, I think maybe DeJuan Jones is back, but maybe he's not. I thought it was that they were all free agents.
And I know Wyatt Teller said that he wasn't coming back. I didn't know the entire offensive line was in free agency.
Yeah, I think that's the story I saw. I could be wrong, but if after I saw that, wide receiver becomes less of a need, even though it's a huge need for the Browns. You have to have someone blocking next year, and honestly, just take whoever the best offensive lineman is available. If Francis Moyaga is not there, then just take Spencer Fanoa. Either one of the Utah tackles is going to be fine, but I have him going to the Browns. Me and Braden both have Ruben Bain going to the Commanders. He wins a lot with his power, and the one knock is going to be his short arms. And honestly, I think before the Super Bowl, Ruben Bain was getting a lot of buzz of going like 2 or 3. But man, people saw what Will Campbell and those short arms did in the Super Bowl. It may have lowered Ruben Bain's stock, even though Ruben Bain didn't even play in that game, just because arm length is a real thing when you're on the edge in the NFL. So that might hinder his performance at the next level, but he is an absolute freak of nature and should dominate anywhere he ends up going. I have Jeremiah Love going to the Saints. I expect them to move on from Alvin Kamara, and even if they don't, like you mentioned, Braden, Jeremiah Love is the best running back in this class. I don't know if he's a better prospect than Genty, but I think it's certainly an argument. Again, you got to give Tyler Shuck any help you can on the offensive side of the ball. Now, if you have Jeremiah Love, Chris Olave, maybe they get another wide receiver in free agency or the draft to pair with Shuck, then the Saints offense could be kind of formidable and kind of could get some stuff going. But I think Jeremiah Love would be an absolutely great pick for the Saints. I have Carnell Tate going as the first wide receiver to the Kansas City Chiefs. With all the questions that the Chiefs have at the receiver position, with Rashee Rice and his off-the-field stuff, with Worthy kind of regressing in year 2, and who knows if Tyreek Hill is if he signs with them, cool. If not, I still think this is a great pick. I think the only wide receiver under roster for 2027 is Jalen Royals. So it might be Royals and Worthy, but even then, Worthy has been so up and down for Kansas City that you can't really rely on him to be like your alpha wide receiver. I think Carnell Tate could be your wide receiver 1 for the future. And so I think that would be the pick for Kansas City. And then for number 10, I have Manoer Delane, the corner out of LSU, going to the Bengals. The Bengals have addressed, I shouldn't say have addressed, they have invested in the defensive line in their first round picks over the last few years. Miles Murphy comes to mind. Shamar Stewart comes to mind. So maybe they look towards corner, because honestly, anywhere on that defense needs help. But I think corner right now is just a huge glaring need if you're the Bengals. But honestly, anywhere on defense, this is a defensive pick no matter what, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. That is my Mock Draft 2.0. Braden, do you have any thoughts before we kind of wrap up this episode?
I mean, not really. There was kind of just, I don't know. I'm trying to think about. I feel like I had something I wanted to talk about, but I can't really think about it too much right now. My mind is blanking. Must not have been important.
One thing I wanted to do before we wrapped up real quick is, like I said earlier, we are early on in the offseason process, so mock drafts can change a lot. I have me and Braden's mocks from last year at this time pulled up, and I'm going to read off the picks, and you're going to understand what I mean that when I say we are early into the process. In our 1.0 mocks, Braden had Abdul Carter 1, which Carter ended up going, 3? Does that sound right? Yeah, he went 3 to the Giants, I believe.
So, yeah.
Travis Hunter going to the Browns at 2. I think Hunter ended up going 2 or 3 anyway.
He went 2 to the Jags with the trade.
Yeah. Cam Ward at number 3 to the Giants. We honestly got Will Campbell right to the Patriots this early on, but that was kind of just an obvious one last season. We had Mason Graham at number 5 to the Jags. Shedeur Sanders, number 6 to the Raiders. Granted, that I think is a complete one-off. I don't think anyone expected Shedeur to go from like top 5 buzz to like 5th round pick, but who knows? Maybe that will happen again. I just don't ever see something like that happen. That was just a crazy one-off in NFL history. Tyler Warren at number 7. Jalen Walker at number 8 to Carolina. Tedero McMillan, number 9 to the Saints. And Armand Membu, number 10 to the Bears. So that kind of gives you...
Armand Membu top 10 in my second mock draft? That is crazy.
The date I have on this is February 27th. So that may have been right after Combine. Or maybe just slightly before Combine. But even then, I mean... I think Tyler Warren ended up going 14. Trying to think. Shedeur obviously went in the 5th round. Jalen Walker ended up going to the Falcons, but that was at like pick 18, or maybe it was 13, something like that. So that was yours. I'm trying to pull up mine real quick. Oh, I had honestly, like Will Johnson.
Take away Shedeur Sanders obviously because he went in the 5th round and put Genty in there somewhere. Honestly, that's not bad.
No.
For February?
That was yours. Mine is relatively the same. But I had Will Johnson going 9 to the Saints, and Will Johnson was a 2nd round pick. Granted,
there was a lot of injury concerns there that we didn't know about.
But he played well when he played for the Cardinals last year. So it's early into the process. Our mocks will be constantly changing because a lot of it will change based on like free agency. Like I think Kansas City's pick will solely like base themselves off of if they sign like someone at the running back position in free agency. Because if they don't, I think Love is the pick if he makes it there. If not, they will go with wide receiver, defense, or I'm trying to think who else. And
I'm just gonna tell you right now, if Jordan Tyson's medicals come back clean, he will be a top 10 pick for me.
Yeah.
He will likely be going at 9. That is just what will be the case. I will probably have Love going up to like 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think Love kind of just has to be a top 10 pick somewhere.
Yeah.
But if Jordan Tyson's medicals come up clean, I probably have him above Mekhi Lemon. And you're battling with you're closer to Carnell Tate than you are to Mekhi Lemon for me with Jordan Tyson.
I kind of like
that type of talent.
I kind of like the fit of Jordan Tyson going to Cleveland at 6. Just because Jalen Tyson for the Cavs, I mean, the Cleveland connection is kind of already there. I don't know.
That could be fun.
That could be kind of fun. I mean, Jalen Tyson and the Cavs. I don't mean to plug the Cavs, but I'm going to plug the Cavs.
We've talked a lot about basketball this episode for me not being on the basketball podcast and also this not being the basketball podcast.
You know what? Hey, all it takes is 2 clicks and it's the basketball podcast. Are you ready? Boom.
Hey, they finally let me on the basketball podcast. Time to be mad about the Bulls for 2 hours.
Hey, man, you don't like the Bulls acquiring 8 million point guards?
Yeah, 8 million point guards, and 2 of them are somehow already out for the season. And we got no first-round picks.
Hey, but all the second round picks someone could ever want.
Yeah, all right, cool. What are we going to trade 5 of them for Jay Crowder? Sick,
Oh,
dude.
I remember that era of the NBA. That was only like 4 or 5 years ago when teams were just trading
Yeah,
all
I
of their.
remember walking home from class, getting that notification that like 4 or 5 second round picks just got bounced between like 4 teams
Yeah.
within a day.
That's like the 2K trade. It's like, okay, I don't want to trade any of my first round picks, and I don't care about any of my seconds. I'm gonna just load up all the second round picks for like some role player. That's basically a 2K trade right there.
Dude, that's the click production special right there. That's
All
tossing
right.
in 6 first round picks for just some like 6 second round picks just from garbage.
For Tony Snow. Shout out.
Most valuable player in the league, Alec Burks. Never forget it.
Yes. Shout out Alec Burks. Shout out Click. That will do it for
Kenny Beecham, dog.
yeah. That will do it for this episode of the Between the Hashes podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. As always, signing off for another fantastic episode. Tune in to all the YouTube clip outs in case you are bored of watching an hour and 20 episode. I get it. It's a lot to consume at once. So if you like the short form content, I post the clip outs of most of the stuff from our episodes in 10 to 15 minute increments. And I post
in hindsight, we should probably be plugging these at the beginning of the episode.
yeah.
Because if you're an hour and 20, at this point you watched the clip outs. At
Right.
This point.
Right.
This is at the beginning. Hey, welcome to the full podcast. By the way, if you don't want to sit here for the next hour and a half,
Yeah. I guess I messed up on that.
You can get the funny parts, but yeah, for now, you probably already watched the clip outs, but we'll get them posted eventually. Whenever turn on post notifications, whenever you get one that 515 posted something, drop a like, comment something, and
Yeah.
stick
There
around
have
for like
been
10 seconds so the view records and just move on with your day.
there are some people that are questioning Braden's ball knowledge on the shorts.
It's
the
like
NFC
a 50-50 split between I don't know what I'm talking about, and I know ball. And it
Yeah.
is entirely dependent on what conference and what division they are a fan of. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Because it's the NFC East fans that hate me, and I hate you too.
Yeah.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
The feeling is mutual. So be sure. Braden already produced a fantastic clip out from this episode. That will be the first thing I edit when I close off this when we stop recording. So that'll be fun.
Make that a clip out too. Make me saying, "Hey, I hate the NFC East." I don't care if it's 6 seconds. That's all I need.
That's just going to be a soundbite that we use. That's not going to be a clip. That's going to be a sound.
If we get our new intro, because by the way, for those that noticed, yeah, we got instantly copyrighted when
Yeah.
we tried to do the fun one. When we get that fixed with new audio or whatever, if we get the bits in, like the voice bits,
Sound bites.
I need that to be my soundbite. I hate the NFC East, signed, sealed, delivered. That's my intro clip.
There we go. We're going to have Brock deal with all that, honestly.
I would expect nothing less.
Yeah. But that'll do it for this episode of the Between the Hashes podcast on the 515 Podcast Network. For Braden Minkin and myself, Dawson Livingston, we are signing off.